Morning, y'all. Let's talk today COR or CT. Open just happened. What a brilliant Open. Congratulations to Shane Lowry. You won't meet a nicer, more genuine guy than Shane, and a fantastic player. I'm so happy for him. But one of the other big stories of this year's Open is it's the first time a club failed the Conforming test. So the R&A CT test. So we're going to talk about CT, COR, what they mean, this means for golf, what it means to you at home as a user, and is it something we should be worried about or not? As always, post comments down below, I will pick them up. Hit that subscribe button as well down there if you don't subscribe to the channel already, and don't be afraid to thumbs up this video. Also make sure you hit the bell. Ding ding. Where is it? Where's the bell? It's down there. It's down here, look. The bell, ring it, ding it, whatever you do with it, right there. Yes, and the bell icon. Then you'll get the notifications every time I post. So let's talk CT and COR. So COR is basically measuring how much energy comes out of how much energy you put in. So if you were to hit a golf shot and no energy was lost, you would have a COR of 1. At the moment, the COR limit is 0.86, so 0.86, so under 1. In the 90s, it went from 0.76 or 8, I think it was, up to where we are now, 0.86. And that's where we saw the big increase in ball speed. So COR is having a real direct influence on how far everyone hits the ball, which is why the R&A USGA are so keen on controlling this number. Now there's a new test that was introduced because it was a bit more portable. They could do it in the field a bit more, called the CT test. I think it's owned by the R&A and the USGA, this test, which they're basically kind of slamming a hammer, I think, on the club. I've seen it done. This is a more portable test, so they don't have to fire a ball at a club, out of like a gun basically, and measure how quick it comes back. They can do this in the field and test these players' drivers. So basically in this test, the higher the CT gets, then that's giving the idea of more spring. There's a limit on the CT as well, which is what Xander's driver failed on. So these limits, these numbers, these measurements, they're put in place to protect everything about golf really, which we'll come to as the video goes on. So what the R&A did during the Open is they did a random test. So I think they selected around 30 drivers. They just pulled 30 drivers randomly to test each one to see what the CT limit was on these drivers. If any weren't conforming, then those players were notified that their driver was non-conforming and it was pulled from play. I think this was done maybe on the Tuesday. So it's like drugs testing really. It's a random test. But who's got the responsibility for having their equipment conforming or not, we'll go into. At no point in this video am I saying that Xander in any way was trying to cheat. He would have no idea what the CT of his club was, and maybe players might be thinking about getting their drivers tested independently a little bit more often as well. Again, something we should talk about. So who's responsible? Because it'll be the player who will be accountable for if they were to start with a club that was non-conforming. If they teed up, pegged it up with a club non-conforming, they're the ones who would feel the wrath. Obviously the manufacturer would get the backlash of that. You've got to remember in this as well, Xander's name was the only one it seems to be leaked. I think there were 4 drivers that were found non-conforming in their tests. We just don't know who the other 4 were. So really, I think you'll find now that the manufacturers are going to start, if they haven't already, doing their own tests. They're going to really seriously make sure that their product... Oh, a bit too hard that one. It's conforming, so their players aren't getting in trouble. So I believe none of these drivers are released non-conforming. They will all conform at point of release. So what's changing them? Well, think about it. These guys hitting the ball at high speeds. They practice loads. So what is happening is the metal is probably moving, weakening, wearing out in spots. Now if they're going to build the clubs close to tolerances, they're going to build the clubs in a way that makes them get as much spring as they legally can. They're also going to have to be aware that if things move, that they will move past tolerance. And I think we might see a difference in the way they build them. And I think it also puts some of the marketing to shame about how close these clubs are to tolerance and so on and so forth. Because if you've got a club that close to tolerance, well, I mean, how much is temperature going to move it? These clubs, if you think about the PGA Tour especially, they could be playing in Arizona in the desert and then chucking them on a plane where they're going to drop way down in temperature when they're up in the hold, up in the plane, then go and play at a different altitude, at a different temperature. So many reactions or kind of things that could be affecting the way this club's perform or not. At no point do I think any manufacturer is releasing clubs that are over tolerance. It's not in their interest. It's the worst thing that can happen to them, to have a bout of illegal drivers. No one wants that, and they want their players winning, I believe, again, through their abilities. But if they're going to build them that close to tolerance, they're going to have to improve their tolerances and make sure they're measuring at different temperatures. No one wants to be smashed with an illegal driver, as in hitting one or beaten by someone playing with one. So we asked the wonderful world of Twitter, let's see what you all had to say. So Craig says there were 4 drivers found to be non-conforming, but only Xander's name got released. That's a bit naughty. I would agree with that. Abe said, I doubt it was deliberate. If the heads are at the limit, it's possible that the face get hotter with use. I'd agree also with that. Manufacturers, Christian says, manufacturers do not seem to be able to control production in terms of specifications and spillage. Legally, it will always have to be the player being responsible, but I would kick my manufacturer in the if they left me hanging out there like that. I'd agree with that also. I was curious straight away about which club it was and how does he end up using it at this level. Surely they all know. Again, no, I think they move. They're all going in as legal and conforming, and they're moving. James Robinson Golf, you might follow on YouTube as well. Obviously not his fault, but if he gamed it in play, then surely some kind of penalty. Yes, there would have been. His biggest issue was not everyone got tested, wasn't it? All a bit strange. Yes, I agree, but it's like drug testing, is it? Spot testing. I don't think they've got the resources or want to be testing every driver. They just want manufacturers to fall in line. Nigel says, still want to know if there's just testing on practice days or does it happen within the tournament itself? I don't know. Post comments down below. I think it's just in practice days at the moment. Henry says, needs to be compulsory now. Well, I think it was compulsory last year and this year, and I don't know, again, post comments down below if they'll be testing in other majors. Mr. Conroy says, I think it's cheating. I don't think it's cheating, and I'm pretty confident that Xander had no idea that was non-conforming, and when he got it, like I keep saying, it would have been. Paul says, there must be loads out there. I know it's different, but I've seen lofts way out to what they say they are, so the loft's not being measured as the same as the face. I mean, as you get deeper into golf manufacturing and testing clubs as I have, tolerance is one of the bigger questions that many don't really want to talk about. And I think this is just starting to highlight how, well, I think it highlights a few things. When we push the tolerances, there's going to be bigger questions, and then also how much difference is it making to the average Joe, which I think gets missed as well. The main point is this testing is there to control the game, make it as level as possible. It's there to protect courses, land, which isn't cheap, as golf is very expensive, as we know. If everyone's hitting it further, then you need more space to build golf courses, then they need to make more money. Golf's struggling to get people to play anyway, isn't it? The difference between non-conforming and conforming, it'll be so minuscule that it's not that any of those drivers would have really given those players much of an edge, because there would have been. They pulled 30 drivers. I think there was 4 that were found to be non-conforming by reports. So that means if there was, 130, 120, 150 players playing in the Open, there's a good chance someone played in the Open with 1 non-conforming from those numbers, isn't there? And what advantage did they have? None. The point is more that there's a limit for a reason, because if it wasn't there, manufacturers would go way beyond it, which then leads to these other questions, some that I pointed out there with land and price and golf courses. And if there is a limit, like anything, certainly in golf, where the rules need to be trying to be as black and white as possible, so we don't turn into football, soccer for the Americans, they're going to police that limit. They're going to make sure that limit is abided to, and the manufacturers are going to have to make sure that they're building within tolerance and can hold tolerance and adjust to the different tolerances that playing around the world at different speeds will deliver to their equipment, to the products that they put out there. Is it a problem? Does it affect anything? I don't think it does. I think if you're in the process of building clubs, it'll make you think. The difference for us, it's more the R&A and USGA just making sure everyone is falling into line, in my opinion. Who's responsible? The player's responsible. If the player wants to move that responsibility over to the manufacturers, I understand that, and in effect they are responsible as well. But if the player pegs up with a non-conforming driver, they're the one who's going to lose the shots or get disqualified. Post comments down below, let me know what you think. As always, love to hear your comments. Hit that subscribe button. Remember to hit the bell icon as well. If you're already subscribed but you don't get the notifications, hit that bell icon. Make sure you get all the notifications of all the fun, great new videos uploading. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on this one. See you tomorrow.